ask that we all please rise for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Davidson.
Mr. Mikowski?
Here.
Ms. Rinaldi?
Here.
Ms. Wilk? Mr. Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Crotty?
Here.
Mr. Vincenzi?
Here.
Ms. Rosa?
Here.
Mr. Gambardella?
Here.
Ms. Albino?
Here.
Mr. Dika?
Here.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson. Board members should have received in their packet on Friday Board of Education regular meeting minutes from March 27th. Did everybody receive those?
Yes.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or edits? Okay, ask for a motion to accept those.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board approve of the minutes from the March 27, 2017 meeting of the Board of Education as submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Abstention. I'm abstention.
Oh, one abstention from Ms. Rinaldi. Thank you. We're going to make that two. I wasn't here either. Thank you for the reminder.
You're welcome.
We're going to make a slight change in the agenda. We're going to switch E with F. E will come later on in the evening. We have some really special awards to give out this evening, and we're all very pleased to be able to do that tonight. Immediately following the three sets of awards that we have this evening, the board will take a brief recess to enjoy some refreshments that have been provided outside of the lecture hall. The first award is the 2017 Board of Education Service Award, and that goes to the Water Oak Circle of Sports. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the Water Oak Circle of Sports, and we are pleased to welcome many of their members here this evening. I would like to acknowledge their current president, Mr. Rich Avaletta, their current vice president, Keith Borkowski, their secretary, Todd Jones, and their treasurers, Kelly Johnston and Greg Gaber. The Water Oak Circle of Sports began in 1977, led by then-president Phil Berchonik. Vice President Bob Palmer Jr. at the time, and Secretary-Treasurer Don Stepanek. Together with their fellow sportsmen, they set out with a purpose: to honor Watertown Oakville resident students or supporters dedicated to the highest ideals of sportsmanship, who have contributed to the betterment of sports regardless of race, color, and creed. Since then, they have certainly succeeded in their purpose, and then some. Today's Circle of Sports annually recognizes residents with a Special Olympic Award, Community Service Awards, the Gold Ring Award, the Bob Cook Hall of Fame Award, Team Champions Awards, and All-State Recognition Awards. Going well beyond their original creed, they have now given almost $250,000 in student-athlete scholarships and have taken on countless projects that aim to improve Watertown's athletic facilities. Almost $750,000 to students that are from Watertown, regardless of what school they go to, as long as they are from Watertown. One only has to spend a few minutes in our town to see some of what they have provided in terms of our athletic facilities. If you've spent any time at DeLand Field, the fencing, the plaques, the dugouts. If you spent any time at Watertown High School, the current press box that's now standing, and a new and improved one to be constructed this year by the Gold Circle of Sports. Scoreboards, the safety padding, sound system, cheer back pads, all at the Bob Cook Memorial Gymnasium here at Watertown High School. In addition to almost $750,000, you can tell I like saying that, in student-athlete scholarships and the many facility donations and enhancements, the members of the Circle of Sports are devout supporters of our coaches and athletic programs, and are especially known for supporting both home and away Watertown Indian football games. Here at Watertown High School, there are very few plaques that we hang in our building. We have the Wall of Honor in the front gallery. We have some memorial plaques for which rooms and important committees were named. We have our Student Athlete Awards and Gold Circle award recipients. Tonight, with the Circle of Sports consent, we'd like to add one more plaque to our wall at Watertown High School, right outside the gymnasium. Tonight, we are pleased to present the Water Oak Circle of Sports with the 2017 Board of Education Service Award in recognition and appreciation for 40 years of outstanding contributions to our students, athletic programs, and facilities. Mr. Avaletta?
These are
We're going to let him hold on to this, but with your permission, Mr. Avaletta, we'd like to have this plaque hung in the high school in front of the gymnasium with the Circle of Sports logo in recognition of everything that you've done for our schools.
Thank you very much, young lady.
So that's a temporary gift. So we're going to take it back.
Thank you, and thank you. This wouldn't be done without the leadership from all the guys and girls that are in the back row there. Without them, we don't have anything.
Could the
Thank
members
you.
that are here from the Circle of Sports please stand?
Okay?
Jim Taylor can get you too.
We're going to ask that you all come out front. If you could come join us up front, we're going to take a photo. Sure. Thank you. Board members? And we'll face all the future members of the Circle of Sports. It's a team effort. You all know what happened, but I don't have it. Okay. Again, congratulations to the Circle of Sports. Moving on, we'd like to recognize our executive officers from the PTOs at all of Watertown Public Schools. Each one of our PTOs at all of our schools play an important role by supporting school progress through their advocacy work and fundraising for school curriculum-based programs and social events. In order to support our students, excuse me, they have created strong working relationships within our schools and provide hours of volunteer work in planning activities, events, and fundraisers. However, those of us who have been close to the situation know that their work goes well beyond that. We have members of the Board of Education that have been on PTOs and have much experience with the amount of work that they accomplish. Excuse me.
Our PTO in general, and particularly our executive boards, build the foundation for the forging of friendships between those that were once strangers, brought together by the mutual desire to contribute to their child's school experience. They are responsible for the merging of resources between families and schools, and they provide the atmosphere that brings parents, teachers, and administrators together on a monthly basis. They create a culture within the school that it goes well beyond PTO meetings, reaching their children, their classmates, and their families, and into the homes of their neighbors and our community members. They engage local businesses and encourage them to support and be a part of the Watertown Public School community. Tonight, we thank you for your hard work and for your dedication to our schools, to our faculty and staff, and most importantly, of course, to our students.
Dr. Catamola will call your name. We'd ask that you come up one at a time to receive your recognition. Shortly afterwards, we will pause for a photo.
Thank you. We'll start with John Trumbull, and Becky, I apologize that you'll have to come up twice, but that's the nature of taking on twice the work. So the president from John Trumbull Primary School, Becky Zadlow. Vice President, we have 3 at John Trumbull, that's how much work they do. Tara DeSimone. Thank you, Tara. Shannon Cavallo. Thank you, Shannon. It's okay, that's okay. No. And Lauren Kellenhauser. Thank you. At Judson, we have 2 co-presidents, Mary Metcalf. And I did see Julie, I think, Julie Hayes. Thank you, Julie. And Vice President at Judson, again, Becky Zadlow. Thank you. From Polk, we have a president and a vice president. Our president, Megan Pizenkowski. And our vice president, Lauren Jones. Thank you, Lauren. At Swift, we have 2 co-presidents. I'm not sure that I saw Tracy Elliott. And the other co-president, Cindy Mazzarella. Thank you, Cindy.
Just like a PTO
And I don't,
executive officer to
that's
have
it.
a cough drop.
And I don't think Diane Bristol, the vice president, was able to make it with us tonight, but Diane. And at Watertown High School, I believe we didn't have either with us, unless Katie Consalvo snuck in, I didn't see her, but I don't think so. So we'll recognize them anyway. We have President Katie Consalvo at Watertown High. And again, another one who takes on a role in more than one school, and we're thankful, Diane Bristol, the vice president.
Let's try this again. This time, we'd like to ask all of the PTO executive officers to come forward for a photograph. And the school administrators, if they're here? John Trumbull? I'm assuming it's done. I think so. Or the bed? All of us, right? Yeah. Go in the back. our Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents Award winners. Congratulations to all of our students for receiving the Superintendent's Award sponsored by the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents. This award is given annually to only 4 deserving students in Watertown for leadership, academic progress, and accomplishments. The students and the superintendent attended the Litchfield County Superintendent's Association Award Dinner on March 29, 2017, where they each received this prestigious award. To all of our CAPS award-winning students, when you first hear your name, please come forward to receive your award, and then stand to the left by Mrs. Davidson. We would ask the audience to hold your applause until the student has come up and stood to the left. Our first recipient is grade 12 student Rachel Martineau.
Rachel is involved in the Watertown High School community, which has always been a very important role for her. She's a choir director and a pianist at the All Saints Episcopal Church and is involved in many clubs that allow her to work towards helping others. Rachel is the president of the National Honor Society, organized the school's blood drives, and throughout all of these experiences, she has maintained high levels of academic achievements.
Congratulations, Rachel. Our second winner, grade 12 student Nathaniel Davino.
Nathaniel has grown tremendously over his 4 years at Watertown High School as both a student and as a member of the community. He is actively involved in our school's theater program, cross-country team, and track and field program. Through these many roles, he has learned the value of teamwork, dedication, communication, creativity, and hard work. As a leader in our school and community, Nathaniel has consistently maintained high levels of academic success.
Congratulations. From Swift Middle School, our CAPS award winner is Sinead Conley.
Sinead is an outstanding member of her 8th grade class at Swift Middle School. She is involved in many school activities, including Peace Pals, Peer Leaders, Art Club, Math Club, Lego Robotics, and is president of the Student Council. Last year, she was one of 2 Swift 7th graders to represent Swift at the statewide Invention Convention held in Hartford. Sinead is also a musician, participates in the Swift Band, the Jazz Band, the Brass Ensemble. She is on the Swift Cross Country team and currently serves as captain.
Congratulations. And our third recipient of the CAPS award is Sam Sheppy.
Samuel was an outstanding.
That's all right.
I'm excited.
Congratulations, Sam.
Samuel was an outstanding member of the 8th grade class at Swift Middle School. He was chosen to be member of the Swift chapter of the National Junior Honor Society based on his superior academic record. Sam is involved in many school activities, including being president of the Swift Leo Club, plays in the school band as well as the jazz band and saxophone ensemble. He has been on the Swift Cross Country team and is a member of the Watertown Recreation Swimming team. Sam also is active in his community through his church.
We're going to pause for a moment to take a photo of our students with Dr. Cardamola and their administrators. Parents, I just handed them their official photo. Now to our youngest students from Polk School who are here this evening. you at this point in the agenda so that you can be reminded of the type of role models you have in this community. Students who have won the prestigious Superintendent's Award, adults who take part in all of the schools as the PTO executive officers, and more adults who support financially and personally the athletics and the students of Watertown High School and all of the other students in our town. We hope that they set an example for you here this evening. I think you're all well on your way. These students that we're recognizing tonight are the top 8 fundraising students from Polk School, and we are recognizing them not for the money they raised, but for their philanthropic efforts. They worked especially hard to raise funds for various causes. They sold shamrocks for the March of Dimes, found sponsors for a math-a-thon to support St. Jude, and sold light bulbs and butter braids for the PTO to purchase Chromebooks for Polk School. We're extremely proud of these students. When we call your name, we'd ask that you come up to receive your award. Dr. Cardamone?
Polk students, I'm going to ask too, when you receive your award, in the interest of time, please step to the side, and then I'll come out so we can take a picture with Mrs. Beckety, okay? Other than that, this is very easy. So for grade 3, Avery Huber.
Great work.
Also in grade 3, Nora Seaborn. In 4th grade, Jalissa Kennedy. Dino Langen. Riley Perugini. And Ryan Johnstone.
Great job, Ryan.
Good job, Ryan. Good. For grade 5, Stephen Clark. And Samantha Pagano. Congratulations, Samantha. Okay.
Polk administrators and Dr. Cardamone take a photo with the students, and then we're going to take a short recess and enjoy some refreshments in the hallway. Okay, guys, now step into the middle, okay? So that your parents can, grandparents can. All right, so everybody's going to use a step. All right, so we'll look to the left first, for anybody over there, okay? Everybody look to the left. All right, middle-ish. And then I'm gonna turn a little to the right. convene the Board of Education meeting at this time. We are now going to go back to item E, report from Student Council representative.
Thank you. John Trumbull, second grade students began working with same book partners, where fiction stories are read while working on a variety of story elements. In math, students visited other classrooms to collect data based on a survey question. They then organized this data with bar graphs and line plots. In addition, singer and songwriter John Farrell hosted a show for the students and was received quite well. At Judson, a welcoming walkthrough was conducted with technical assistance from SCRC in order to recognize what Judson is doing right and to identify areas that they could be more welcoming. All fifth grade students took the CMT science test last week, with Smarter Balance testing starting on Monday, April 24th. At Polk, all Polk teachers will be attending the restorative practices training, where they will be trained in a philosophy that sees relationships as central to learning, growth, and a healthy school climate for students and adults. Alex Ortner, author of the book Gorilla Thumps and Bear Hugs, presented at Polk on Friday, April 21st, sharing his book and teaching how to use the emotional freedom technique, or tapping, which is a strategy that can help students overcome stress, anxiety, and negative emotions. At Swift Middle School, on April 5th, accompanied by Mrs. Rader, Ms. Porcheron, and Mrs. Getz, the Spanish and Art Club went on a field trip to New Haven, visiting a rare book collection, the Yale Museum, had lunch at El Amigo Felix, and an afternoon of salsa dancing, with the French Club going to the Litchfield Hills on April 22nd. Eighth graders were treated to a presentation from representatives of the 3M Corporation, outlining information regarding careers in manufacturing and engineering and giving details of how products are created. And this was a result of a student winning the invention convention last year. At Watertown High School, our juniors took the SAT and sophomores took the science capped on April 5th. On March 28th and 31st, award-winning young adult author Paul Volponi conducted writing workshops for all freshmen and juniors at Watertown High School. Having taught in the New York City public school system for 16 years, 6 of those years on Rikers Island, the world's biggest jail. He has written 12 novels and won 11 American Library Association awards without having been a reader in middle and high school. So his story is very inspirational for students at our age. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item G, the superintendent's recommendations and report.
Thank you. I'll be brief this evening. I can do that again because you get better and better every time, Mr. Dika.
For you.
I can say less. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Watertown High School for the successful production of Once Upon a Mattress from this past weekend. Shows were Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. It was another great musical, and kudos to everyone who was involved. I was here for a little bit this morning and saw a number of the students again who were involved, and I was told several times that fingers are crossed for Halo nominations again, and I told them I was right there with them. I just, again, want to say thank you and recognize, I know we do that at other times anyway, but I wanted to recognize that that went very well and the show was great. And thank you also to the board for sponsoring the dinner before the show and the show with members from the community and town council. I think that was very well received. The students, teachers, staff here at the high school did notice that, and we're happy that they had so many of you and folks from the town council here to see the show. So thank you, Mrs. Crotty, for starting that and taking lead and making that happen for our students. That was very much appreciated. We held a full-day professional development last week, which went very well. Kudos to Dr. Parlato for initiating it and for the administrators and the teachers who assisted in running it. We mentioned it at a previous meeting. It's something known as Ed Camp, and it was our first venture into this in Watertown Public Schools. Basically, it's a participant-driven professional development, and that means that the topics are decided upon and put together on the day of the professional development. So from a logistics standpoint, it can be difficult to manage with that many people and ideas, but they did a great job doing it. The reports from our faculty were that they really enjoyed the day, learned a lot. Of course, some room for improvement that we took via survey, and we're going to be discussing how to run it again. That won't be this year. This was a big enough venture for the first time, but Thank you again. I think that our teachers took away quite a bit of information, particularly from some of the most well-attended sessions, because again, they were able to decide where to go, and it was able to then help us plan for the future based on interest for what they were most interested in. Also, a note about K to 5 math. Dr. Parlato, I almost called her Dr. Archibald. Sometimes it feels that way based on the work that gets done. But Dr. Parlato and Ms. Archibald have continued to plan for the remainder of the school year, and they are analyzing results from our K to 5 fact fluency computer program, and also which materials are needed for that. Again, of course, this is to assist our teachers with implementation of math standards and our students with mastery of the math standards in grades 1 through 5 primarily right now. An added note, I just want to recognize Ms. Archibald because she was selected by the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, which, as you know, Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium is the long version of SBAC, as we commonly refer to it, the testing that is done. She was selected to attend a workshop in because of item development, some of the work that she has done and submitted. She received an all-expense-paid trip to Chicago and is developing assessment items with teachers throughout the country as a result of the work that she has done here in developing some of our instructional items. So we are very proud of her, very prestigious honor for both her and the district, of course. And again, as a reminder, Ms. Archibald is our K to 6 math specialist that we've had for the last 2 years, and that we are looking to extend in 7 to 12 in the coming year with another person certified in those areas. And that is all I have for the time being.
Thank you, Dr. Padimola. Moving on to item H, the Power School presentation. Mr. Jeff Turner, Director of Technology, will update the board on the progress we have made and our efforts to maintain coherence within our systems and goals for next year.
Hello, Board. Last year at this time, we were doing implementation of the Power School, so I just want to go through a quick where we're at, what we're doing, and where we're going. 2 of our goals, won't read them to you, but basically we're talking about communication, and that's what a school information system is. Data in, data out, being able to communicate what's going on, how it's being used, how we can design reports, things of that nature, for classroom teachers, for parents, for administrators, for data-driven decisions. Power School status, we are at the upgraded version. What that basically means is we're always on the newest version. About every month or 2, there is a small update. One of the nice things, and I don't want to compare too much to what we previously had, was we were usually far behind. With Power School, automatically, since we're hosted, every server update, whether it be state reports or whether it be Power School itself, they will give us about 2 weeks' notice. It'll go up to the teachers as well as the administrators with a yellow bar saying the next update is XYZ. It's always on a Saturday. It's always within a 4-hour window, and usually the downtime is about a half an hour each time. Doesn't affect teachers per se, unless they're working on the weekends, but they are up to date, and that gives us the newest software at all times. It allows us to always have new tools that are coming in. Part of that is being hosted. The upgrades are automatic. We don't have to touch anything. I don't have to ask our network operations person who works 8 from 4 to do the work after school. He doesn't have to do it before or after. It doesn't have to have downtime while teachers are here. One of the biggies we have going on this year is continuous training for all staff. The secretaries have taken the brunt of this. Administrators, teachers have a good amount, but the secretaries have done yeoman's work. They are not only doing the work, but they're asking better questions. They're more informed. They're starting to ask, how can we do what we're doing better? And that's where we're going to be working on for the next few years, especially about reports, where they're really doing some data, and they're working with they're working with the administrators, and they're starting to build things that they've had before that were more PowerPoint driven. Now we'll be able to store them in Power School so that we can look at things over an aggregate number of years or compare cohorts, or depending on how we want to store the data, it'll allow us to do that. And the biggie this year was the cost-effective change. We saved $20,000 between going to Power School and changing our food services. And you saw that in this year's budget. And it will be a good savings over the years, every year. The one thing that has changed with it is they no longer do a 3-year plan, so each year they will be giving us the cost. So I'll update that each year as we go through it. Progress, everything's up and running well. We have not had one outage this year other than expected downtimes. I can tell you when you first start this and when I did this at a previous district, we had days where it was not so good. We were hosted by ourselves in my previous district, and there were many nights where we were there till 11 or 12 o'clock making things work. It has gone very smoothly, and I'm actually real thrilled by how well it's going. For the first three-fourths of the year, we've gotten scheduling started at the high school in Swift. We'll be doing elementary scheduling after the year rolls over because it's called live scheduling. I'll be working with the secretaries for the second year. They did a great job last year. This year, they'll actually understand what I'm talking about as we go, and it'll be much easier to do. Online report cards, this was a challenge I had because I'd never done it before. We found a piece of software that works wonderfully. The middle school and high school have used and are using the online report cards. Basically what it does is it allows me to store the grades, and within X amount of time, the principals tell me to go ahead and run the data and then run the report cards. The parents have them in their parent portal right away. There's no secretaries or office having to fold, use papers, send out emails, or do it during old-fashioned mail. Again, time savers. Data collection, biggie for me, is something we'll be working on for the next few years, but just the ease of use for the parents. One of the things we added at the beginning of the school year was a data verification for demographics. So that parents could go in and change their phone numbers, their addresses, just basic demographic information. It goes to the secretarial staff and they verify that it's right, other than an address which has to be proved by a piece of paper. But they at least get the heads up that they are moving or other pieces of data. We'll be adding over the summer probably about 4 times the amount we're doing now. I'll be working with a third-party software vendor that's going to tie into our demographics that will allow the parent portal to have even more choices. And then state reporting, working with Kathy Roy this year. The biggie with state reporting in PowerSchool is the fact, for example, one of the things I worked on last week, there's a report called the 166. It's the discipline form. Well, in the past, you had to do this by hand, one disciplinary thing at a time. Secretaries can now take it and dump all the data, view it. Even though the port is only open for about 2 months a year for the discipline, the secretaries can start in September and every month review the data in a spreadsheet, seeing what's missing, what doesn't look good, go back and clean. It's all about cleaning the data, seeing how it works, what you're using it for. This will allow them to have less errors when it's time to update, also with the PSIS, the TCS. All these reports can be run throughout the year instead of waiting until they're due in the middle of summer. And when middle of summer comes, you don't have as many people to ask teaching-wise or administrator-wise, what's the issue with this piece of data? Third-party software, the biggie for me with PowerSchool is the fact that I can take a couple different things. One is the ability to get third-party software, which means another vendor's creating, and then it's housed within PowerSchool. It allows you to have other people who are building things. First one we're going to look at is for next year probably, we're going to look at a program called InfoSnap or Family ID, which we presently use. And when we go through it, what we're going to be able to do is use this program to stop sending summer packets out. Do you remember the big yellow packet you get in August with every piece of paper in the world, and it usually weighs about 1/4 pound, usually about $3 to send out? We'll be able to do 90% of that online where parents can say, yes, I read this handbook. Yes, I saw this waiver. Yes, I'm signing this waiver. And they'll be able to do that online. We'll store the data in PowerSchool and have a form where we can see all that data. A great example is when parents don't want to use or have their child's picture out there, so that we can quickly pull up who has a picture that equals no, so that we don't put it on Twitter, we don't put it out to the newspaper or accidentally put it on some other website, for example, things of that nature. Third thing is the second thing is the free plugins. A plugin is a piece of software that allows, again, usually a vendor, to go ahead and add a new feature to PowerSchool. One of the things that we're going to be adding at the end of this year, just to test it, is the teacher gradebook. Was brand new this year, came out in August. but it lost a couple of features that we used to have. And one of the features was the ability for teachers to see all the email addresses and email a class. So if you wanted only the boys who lived in Oakville, you could go through your class and grab just those kids and then send an email. I'm going to be adding a plugin and testing that with a few teachers. It's not going to be out for the regular package until August, but I have a plugin that will work. The cool thing about it is I can drop the plugin whenever I need to, and there's no programming. I literally click a button, say make it work. I unclick it and say don't need it anymore. No need to go through and customize and pay somebody, an engineer or a programmer. And then the last one is the ability to write reports ourselves. Right now, that's me. I'll be training a few other people, hopefully, who are interested. They're called object reports. So if Dr. Carnamola wants a certain piece of data in a certain way, all she has to do is tell me, and then I can create it on a paper form. I can create an electronic form, any number of things that we can do with that. Again, a really cool feature that wasn't available in the previous SIS. Everything had to be done by the other program, and they would have to write the reports for you. Things to do. The best analogy is Power School's like a house. I don't care how well you keep it up, you got to keep doing something. Something's going to break, something's not going to work, or there's always an addition to add. And that's pretty much what a school information system is. Continued trainings. As long as I'm here, teachers, administrators, staff, new teachers coming in every year when we have the week where new teachers come in, we'll be doing Power School trainings about what's new. Beginning of the school year, we'll always talk about how to set up your grade book, things of that nature. Creating custom reports. As we get better and better at this, people will ask for more and more data. And it really comes down to every day I'm at a different school, and what I ask the secretaries and the principals to say is, what can I do for you? We set a goal, they tell me how much time I have, I create it, and we go from there. Creation of a yearly to-do list for Power School administrators. Right now, I am the Power School administrator. I'd like to have a few other people just for myself, just in case something happens. It's nice to have 2 or 3 people that are very comfortable and be able to go through what do you have to do in August, September, October, what state reports are coming up, what data needs to be checked. Just things that are always on the go. Every month there's probably 10 or 15 things you have to do within Power School. And then finally, train, and build capacity. Our teachers, our administrators, our secretaries are getting better and better every day at this. By next year, they will have really deep questions, or they won't need me, one or the other. I'm not sure which one it's going to go. Hopefully it's the first one. Parent Portal app, one of the best things about Power School. The thing where I need to do better is I need to market this more. I need to go to more back-to-school nights when the school year starts. I did a couple this year. I want to get the elementaries more involved in the Parent Portal. I want to get the elementary report cards on the Parent Portal next year. I want to add new tools using those portals, those plugins that I was talking about. More tools that will be there so that people are using it in kindergarten all the way through 12th. Right now, our 7th through 12th graders are really using it quite a bit, and I can't actually gauge how much access they're using it, which is kind of a cool feature. Also getting information to parents faster via the portal and app, and that's just a district belief. It goes back to the communication. Everything we have needs to go out, and everything that goes out needs to come back in. So if we're asking parents for something, they need to be able to see what we need and then be able to send the data back. We don't need the old-fashioned way of, here's your emergency card, now it comes back to school, the nurse does this part, the secretary does this, guidance does this. Too many chances for human error. We have the parents do it, and even better when we have the software, if you have 3 kids, it pulls the data that you already have in Power School, so you're not just filling in the last name, the first name, redundant information that we already know. Last thing is make it more accessible via other means of communication. Using other apps. There's the website, tying it to more pieces of data that we use, and those will be added as we go. Looking to the future, upgrades to Power School will be continuous. Every month there's something new, whether it's a state report or whether it's Power School itself. There's always a new feature. Twice a year they come up with the biggies, January, June, July. And this June, July, the biggie is supposed to be new demographics information. So that has a lot to do with what I'm planning to do this summer. Ongoing trainings, I'll be doing some Power School trainings over the summer along with a few other things. And then working on data collection and creation for reports for admins and teachers. Power School's good for data collection, but it's a great first start. Once we really get into it, then we'll be using that data in other tools as well. And that's something I'd like to add as well. And the good thing is most of these tools are free. So you really can add a lot of neat things that other people are creating. One of the things we use is something called Power Source. I don't get enough time on there, but what happens is anybody in the country who uses the software, if they really like it, they upload it to a community area where we can take it, again, for free, and change it if we want to use it to make it just Watertown. So if I want to add our crest, change some things around, it's all free. And that's really what we're looking for, is a base program that we know a continuous cost and we can work around without paying all this extra money. Questions?
Start us off here. Thank you, Mr. Turner.
You're welcome.
Have you been able to gauge how many parents are utilizing PowerSchool and how often?
I was talking to a parent this morning, actually, and just discussing it. I have not gone through and actually counted. What it does is it shows every time a student or a parent logs in. The problem with the data is you never know if a parent's logging in under the student's login or a student's logging under the parent login. But yes, I can see whenever a child or a parent logs in under their login. But I have not gone back and counted how many kids, how many
So it
hours.
doesn't provide you with a report of
You
how
can.
many okay.
But part of the problem with the data is it's not true data. Because if Mr. Vicenzi logs in, he might leave his computer on for 2 hours, but he really looked at it for 2 minutes. So it actually counts how long your software is open. So, we could talk about how you might want to see that. That would be a discussion probably for an admin council. But I'd be happy to come up with something for that if you wanted that.
And when we were first introduced to PowerSchool, we had talked a little bit about some of its features. And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the features was that there were additional languages that PowerSchool could be viewed in for
Yes.
some of our students and parents who have English as a second language. Have we been able to utilize that for any of our parents?
It's a
that are-
pull-down menu. When a parent logs in, all they have to do is pick the country or the language they're using, and it goes right in.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Do they know that? Have we worked to communicate with those parents that may not have English as a first language, that they can use PowerSchool and they can set it to a different language?
I have said that in a few meetings, but I
Okay.
have not actually sent out something district-wide for that.
Thank you. Any other board members have any questions?
Through the chair, maybe what you can do is just ask the PTO head, the president, if they can add that on the Facebook page, just for communication purposes to parents.
I could also put it on an email, just a FYI. One of the things I'd like to do is kind of have like monthly did-you-know type things.
My concern is not with people who speak English.
Mhm.
So I don't know that speaking at any of the meetings or bringing it up, just trying to find another way to connect with people who might not be English speaking in the home and know that they can still go on, something we can look at.
There are other ways I could go around that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Thank you.
Moving on to item I on the agenda, budget summary. Ms. Jill Brown, our business manager, will discuss the quarterly budget report. Do all
Thank you,
board
Mrs.
members have their copy of the report? Great.
Report was sent in Friday's packet, and presently, we are operating approximately $49,000 under budget for the year. As you know, we instituted a hard freeze earlier this year, and as a result of that freeze, coupled with our deliberate and strategic decisions with regard to personnel, we've been able to weather the additional and unforeseen expenses that came our way this year with special education. The accounts that you see on my report with an asterisk are the accounts to which we allocate grant funding and why they show as over budget with regard to the general fund. I'm talking primarily about 310, the professional and technical services, 510, transportation, 560, tuition, and then the telephones, the 530 E-rate gets allocated toward that. I expect a list of transfer requests in the next month or two for purposes of balancing the budget, most notably the monies that we have protected in the certified staff line
to be transferred into the 3 areas of special education. Also, it should be noted that the overall total budget number down the bottom, that's in bold, $42,485,791. If you recall, that looks different because our original number was $41,071,791. That is because on March 28th and then again on April 17th, the town council appropriated first $840,000 to our health insurance line, and then in the second meeting, an additional $574,000. So that's increased our budget number. It's run through our line and gone right back to the town to pay some major health insurance claims that we have incurred in the current operating year. So that number will look a little different.
While we're on that subject, Mrs. Brown, could
Sure.
you speak a little bit for those who haven't been at some of the meetings where it was mentioned about the average costs per month for the town in terms of the health insurance costs?
Of course, that's a living number that fluctuates, but on average, we incur roughly $650,000 to $700,000 per month in health insurance costs. As folks meet their deductible throughout the year, sometimes we see that get a little bit higher. So, we hope and pray that April will be a kind month. In March, I believe that came up toward 1.3 million, to give you an idea. And we've just incurred some really tremendous claims this year. So another way to look at that is to say a prayer for our coworkers and colleagues that have been enduring some things that are pretty tough.
Any questions for Mrs. Brown? Just give board members a moment. Mr. Lambert?
The pupil transportation line item 510. I noticed the increase of $384,398. Could you kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure. Within that line, not only is that the contract with the bus company, but that's also our special education transportation costs. And so by design, we will see that go over what we've allocated in the general fund, and the excess cost grant will help us out with that.
That explains it. Thank you.
Sure.
Speaking of transportation, do you know offhand, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, when the current contract with First Student expires?
It was extended during my first year here, or just before as I was arriving, to be a 5-year contract, and I believe we've got another year after this year.
Correct.
So it would expire in 2018? Okay,
I'll double check on that for you.
okay, thank you. Any other board members have questions for Mrs. Brown?
Through the chair, can you just explain the tuition, please? Line, let's see, I can't. 560.
Yes, we have several students that attend outplacement facilities, and also the students that attend the Nanawag VOAG program are in there. We have a couple of magnet students. I believe there's only 2 this year, but the bulk of that is the outplacement through special education.
Thank you.
If I may, though, since Ms. Albino asked the question, just to be clear, that's back to what Mrs. Brown was referring to. As we have seen the increased number of students who were outplaced, in part, we spoke about this earlier in the year at least one board meeting. We've had a number of students move into town who had been previously outplaced before they arrived, and in other words, that would not have been a piece of our budget going into this school year, but we need to maintain the programs when students do move. And then, of course, as happens every year, and this is the main reason that the excess cost grant historically has been structured the way that it is, because special education costs are so difficult to project with certainty from year to year, because students' population changes and student needs change. And we're at any given moment, an additional student tested and determined to have a disability from an increase in any of our special education costs. This tuition line, at this time of year, we would always see run over in anticipation of the excess cost grant. However, we are well over this year, and as Mrs. Brown mentioned, that is exactly why back in November we had to institute what we've had to maintain as a hard freeze, meaning not even rehiring in most cases when someone has left, because we have needed to make sure that we were able to cover these expenses that are above and beyond even what we expect excess costs to cover. And thankfully, because we caught it by then, we are able to take a hard line in some of the other lines and save the money. That has, frankly, though, been difficult on the district, because every single expenditure has had to come through our office for approval, and many of them, unless it was deemed absolutely necessary, we just have not been able to do, because these costs have to be paid. And that is why Mrs. Brown mentioned we'll be back asking for the transfer request before the year is over, so that we can cover these special education costs. It's another reason that we are hoping that the governor's plan does not include cuts to special education, because you can see the amount of money that we spend on the necessary services in professional and technical services. That line is 90% special education, and those are absolutely essential services that are provided. And you look at that line, $493,951 in the budget. Year-to-date actual is over $1 million. With if the governor makes choices to cut special education funding, even though one, students need the services, and two, we are mandated to provide the services, these are the lines that will be a problem.
Thank you. Mr. Rakowski?
Quick question, I apologize if we already covered it. For special education, or if a student goes out of district, do we have their tuition on line 560 and then their transportation on 510 if we're covering their transportation as well?
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
I just wanna make
exactly.
sure.
So one going up automatically means the other goes.
Right, I just want to
Yep.
make sure that, those types of things aren't, the transportation wasn't bundled into that tuition or something like that. Okay.
Sometimes also in that transportation line, just for everyone to have the same understanding, it's not only the transportation, it's not the bus or the livery service or what have you that very often transports students to other towns. Sometimes it's an aide that has to ride along too, and the salary of that person there and back and so forth. So there's other pieces in special education that are included in that pupil transportation line.
Any other questions? Mrs. Brown, I just want to thank you for preparing this report and sharing it with us. For a reminder to the rest of the board, we're in our second year of doing these, and that doesn't mean that we forget how much work it is to put these together. It's not something that we've done in the past. As a board, we've started something new in the last year, and I know right smack in the middle of this time of year to be able to put this together takes quite a lot of work, so I appreciate the effort that went into that for us.
You're very welcome.
Moving on to item J, Wall of Honor. The Board of Education is currently seeking nominations for the Watertown High School Wall of Honor. The purpose of the Wall of Honor is to recognize those individuals that have brought distinction to Watertown High School and the community through their commitment to excellence. To be nominated to the Wall of Honor, a candidate must have graduated from Watertown High School at least 10 years prior to the year of induction and have consistently demonstrated the highest standards of excellence and honor in his or her chosen vocation. Award recipients are chosen from the fields of athletics, business and finance, fine and performing arts, education, health, medical services, government, public service, and science and technology. Nomination forms can be found on the district website at www.watertownps.org. The completed nomination forms must be received in the district no later than May 24th, 2017. So if you know of someone that you would like to nominate, please go online and nominate them. Moving on to item K, do any members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Item L, Mrs. Rinaldi, Curriculum and Instruction.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Vicenzi, Policy and Labor.
No report.
Mr. Lambert, Budget and Finance.
No report at this time.
And back to you with Facilities, Public Building Committee, and Operations.
Yes, the Public Buildings Committee met last Wednesday. Topics of discussion were the addition of internal bathrooms within the Board of Ed space at the Municipal Center, larger offices in the Finance Department, parking lot space issues, and the contingency fund for asbestos-type material that may be discovered within the walls during demolition. That's all right now.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Moving on to Governance and Community Engagement, Mr. Makowski.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item M, Communications, and on behalf of Mrs. Wilk, I will say that there is none. I'll keep my report brief, but there are a few items I'd like to go over. I'd like to thank Mr. Lambert for representing the board at the welcoming walkthrough recently at Judson Elementary School. I know that was quite a time commitment, and it was important. I appreciate that you were able to do that. On April 18th, Board of Education was had their board retreat at Swift Middle School, run by Dr. Catamola and Dr. Parlato, where we discussed what the ideal Watertown Public Schools looks like from the board's perspective. And we're very pleased to be walked through a variety of new curriculum and standard-based report cards that are being utilized. It was nice to learn more about what our teachers know and are learning, so we appreciated that very much. I hope that the retreat was as helpful to me as it was to, I hope it was as helpful to all of you as it was to me. That's what I meant. On 5/29, members of the Board of Education are invited to walk in the Memorial Day Parade as we honor those past and present veterans and those still in service. Any board members who would like to come, please respond to the email that you've received. Yesterday, I was joined by Dr. Catamola, Mrs. Rinaldi, Mr. Lambert for the Circle of Sports Awards banquet. I was thrilled to see all of our administrators there, our coaches, a lot of our community members, some of which who are teachers and administrators, and of course our students that received awards yesterday.
Mrs. Wilk.
And Mrs. Wilk, who is not here today, but yes, Mrs. Wilk joined us as well. I wanted to mention that tomorrow, on behalf of the town council, I wanted to mention that tomorrow is a special election in Watertown. Residents of Watertown and Oakville are asked to vote in the special election to fill the vacated seat of Eric Berthel in the 68th district. Moving on to item O, action items to be approved by consent. Item number 1 is consideration of the approval of an out-of-town field trip to Waterford, Connecticut for our transition students. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board approve of the Watertown High School field trip to Camp Harkness in Waterford, Connecticut, and from May 9th through May 11th, 2017, for approximately 10 Watertown High School students and 5 chaperones as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Rinaldi. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item 2, consideration of the approval of an out-of-state field trip to Anaheim, California. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board approve of the Watertown High School field trip to Anaheim, California from June 27th, 2017 through July 3rd, 2017 for approximately 5 Watertown High School students and 1 chaperone as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Vicenzi. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item 3. The girls' basketball team at the high school received a check from Ms. Daniel Irvin in the amount of $1,000. Do we have a motion to accept?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board approve of accepting the $1,000 donation to the Watertown High School girls' basketball team made by Ms. Danielle Irvin, and that a letter of appreciation be sent to the donor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to the next donation, Mr. Anthony Romano donated office and school supplies, originally to Swift, but then it was shared with the entire school district in the amount of $2,000. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve of accepting $2,000 worth of office and school supplies donated to Watertown Public Schools by Anthony Romano, and that a letter of appreciation be sent to the donor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item P. Do board members have any future agenda items they wish to share or any comments they wish to make at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll come to the last round of public participation. Item Q, do any members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Seeing none, I'll ask for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned. The time is 8:48.